Hi, folks. Welcome once again to Talk Formula One. And what a crazy race weekend we had. Tonight, again with me is OBJ as usual. OBJ.
Yeah, welcome, guys. Talk Formula One. Exciting weekend. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, so without wasting too much time about qualies, I mean, I think the only highlight for me in qualies would have been the fact that Max was on his way to pole before he stuck it in the wall at the last corner. But hey, I guess we'll hear OBJ's opinion on that.
It was on the way to the pole or to the wall. I didn't quite get which one you said. I thought it was on the way to the wall because right from turn one, he was already kissing and hugging the wall. So by the last turn before the home straight, I absolutely was not surprised. The back end of the car just stuck it right out. I mean, it's the same attitude that Verstappen has when he's defending an overtake or trying an overtake. He's aggressive. It was way too aggressive with the car. And the car said, well, you know what? I've had it. You're going into the wall.
Oh, well. That's debatable, OBJ. It's a street circuit, Monaco, Baku, the likes, it's micro inches. You got to either, go all guns blazing to get a time or, So
yeah, you have to. And like you rightly said, I mean, the good thing for me was, Max was racing himself during quali, so he wasn't being impeded or being, he was racing himself. And you need to know the limit of your car, and you need to know when your car is approaching its limit, and you ease off. And in fact, when you ease off, you have to ease off, not aggressively, because a sudden change in the rotation of those wheels is just going to send the back end out. Inexperience, I put it down to that. There you go.
Oh, well, jury's out on that. Anyhow,
no surprises there.
to the crazy race, because what a crazy race it was. So, we all got off the line reasonably well. I think as at, the onset of the race, all Mercedes diehards, I'm not mentioning names here, were, quite comfortable with, Bottas and Hamilton getting off the line cleanly and keeping P1 and P2. But few laps into the race, Mick Schumacher doesn't do the Mercedes team any favors by, slamming his car into the wall. And then, Mercedes boys jump in for pit stops as you would do. Max takes the gamble of staying out. Now, one would say good call on Max's part. However, and this is me trying to be as neutral as possible, I thought that decision for a red flag came late. I mean, it was apparent when the barriers were hit. It was apparent that, if they wanted to do such a comprehensive repair to it, straight away, they should have red flagged the race. I felt letting it run for a few more laps before it was red flag was, wasn't the best. It wasn't the best of decisions.
No, it wasn't, especially when the Mercedes team has showed their hand. If they hadn't showed their hand, they would have said, well, it's absolutely neutral. We're going to red flag the race and everybody's at liberty to do, whatever they wanted. But Mercedes team, both cars already showed their hand, committed to the tire change. And then Mr. Massey decided to red flag the race. I mean, I looked at those barriers. I had to go and, look at it again. And those barriers weren't destroyed. I couldn't see any puncture or any material deformity in those barriers that warranted a red flag. A lot of fans did not think a red flag was the way forward. But hey, he's got the final call. He put safety first in case another car was to impact at the same point, then things could be majorly compromised. So I totally understand that. So we are where we are. The good news was that the Mercedes team were able to salvage that disadvantage, moving into the race.
Restart. So were the Mercedes boys naughty?
Well, not really. I really don't think they were being naughty.
I didn't expect you to say any differently, OBJ. I expected you to say tactical.
It's about using all the tool in the toolbox. They were being strategic, and the Red Bull would have done no different. In fact, pushing the boundaries of being strategic. Red Bull have a history of pushing that further out than the Mercedes team would ever even contemplate doing. As in, Red Bull, it's gloves off completely. So yeah, interesting.
So, because I'm not expecting any different answer, but was Max being a little uptight when he was lamenting on the radio about them not keeping 10 car legs? Because correct me if I'm wrong, but apparently that 10 cars length rule only applies when it's the formation lap. Apparently,
that is the impression that I have. So
apparently, when it's not a formation lap, then that 10 car length rule does not actually apply. One would have expected Max to know this, and Red Bull team to have corrected him. But hey,
if Max didn't know that, you'd expect Christian Horner to be up to speed, being in this, space for well over several decades. So they've just been silly. But I think on the whole, the restart, both parties were evenly compromised, because if you look at it, the last car that actually joined the grid, he took his sweet time. He did. Even more than the Mercedes cars did. So everybody was trying to get their tires up to speed, slow down as best as you can and give a really fast, aggressive acceleration whilst weaving to try to generate some heat. And I wasn't surprised the Mercedes did that. I would have expected Max Verstappen to do the same.
Right. So restart. And Lewis takes the lead. And then, of course, as we all know, Max takes it back and exceeds track limits. In the process, Ocon manages to get ahead of Hamilton as well. So then I found it kind of weird that, race control turned around and, was trade by battering with the teams on, P1, P2, behind, Max. It was interesting. Would you say it was the right outcome that was settled at last?
I think the outcome was the right outcome. I think what, like you rightly said, the part I had major issues is this trade by barter that seems to be going on, and even further down the line, we had the same issue that they said, well, it's either you're going to take a 5-second penalty, or you concede the advantage that you had. And Red Bull opted to give the. Come on. This is Formula 101. If you have an unfair advantage, I think you use exceeding track limits to retain your position or to overtake somebody, you need to hand it back. And why on earth would Red Bull want to argue that I just cannot believe it. And I mean, clearly I'm not a Red Bull fan. I never was, and this is the reason why I was really never there fan. I mean, come on, let's have a good race. Let's win the World Championship, but let's do it fair and square. Not by cheating, not by being underhanded, not by pushing the boundaries and expecting stewards to look the other direction. And I don't know why Christian Horner believes that Red Bull is entitled to that, or maybe he has a relationship with Mr. Massa, or maybe he's dating his half sister or something. But I just can't understand it. If you have an unfair advantage, you need to hand back the position. Simple as that.
Okay.
Nothing to bad.
Okay. Moving along swiftly. There was the incident where, in the process of handing back the space, Lewis ran into Max. Now, what was Lewis thinking?
No, listen, like Lewis had his eyes bang on the car in front of him. Red Bull had told Verstappen to hand the position back strategically. What kind of a message is that? That's a coded message. And of course, what did Max do? I mean, the data has actually come out now confirming that Max hit his brake significantly hard. It wasn't just a mild touch of his brake to slow down. It was slowing down, coming down the gears, and suddenly he slammed his brake. It registered about 2.4 G, and as a result, it's just been announced he's getting a 10-second penalty for that. His only luck is, his 10-second penalty that is being given, is not being, pushed forward into the race in Qatar, which again you would argue that is, the steward being quite lenient on him. If you were to find, if you were to be found out to have brake tested somebody, it's a very serious offense in F1 because people can lose their lives. It's a very serious offense in F1.
I was waiting to stick in that term and say, so in other words, he brake tested Lewis.
It's without a doubt. The data has been out now. They've seen the telemetry. He not only applied the brake, he applied the brake aggressively. And that was Lewis. The only thing that saved Lewis was his cat-like reaction that he immediately went into an evasive maneuver. But even the evasive maneuver was not strong enough to avoid the collision. I mean, I think it measured about 2.4 G, apparently, the brake force that was applied. So it was quite significant.
Wow.
And he got away very, very lightly, Max. I mean, is that the quality of a world champion? I mean, we need to ask. I mean, we know Michael Schumacher was quite dirty, but Michael wouldn't go as far as, listen, he wanted to take Lewis out. His strategy was, I'm going to destroy his nose cone. I'm going to get a 5 or 10-second penalty. I'm still going to be good. And if Lewis did a DNF, race over, Max will have been world champion as of Sunday. And that's beyond dirty. That is vicious.
Well, as things stand, that's not the case. But what I found very interesting was tire choice on the second restart. Red Bull went with quite frankly, I think it was a gamble. They took the gamble of going with mediums to give them a bit more pace because, quite frankly, I was amazed. Over the first part of the lap, the Red Bull was able to pull, anything between 1.2 and 1.2 and 1.6 seconds out on Mercedes. But, at the close of the lap, the Mercedes was able to, reduce that gap to, 700s, So I think clearly the Mercedes in a straight line was, superiorly quicker than the Red Bull. So I guess they must have taking the gamble of going for the mediums to give them a bit more pace. However, was that really bright? Because I think they had a bit of data to let them realize that the medium tires would go off, within 30 laps thereabout. And at the pace they were pushing, even though there was safety car, virtual safety car, or whatnot, every time they were back on it, they were really pushing. So was it a throw of the dice against all odds, or what? Because I guess eventually Max lost his back end.
The back ends were gone. I mean, to be totally honest with you, it was a bait by the Mercedes. Max had a quicker car, no doubt. They put him onto the medium, knowing the Mercedes have showed their hand on the hard and they're not coming away from that. So their strategy was, we'll go on the medium, the faster one. We've got a faster car, and we're just going to disappear into the heavens. But you see, this is where I mean, I'm a Lewis fan, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not a Lewis fan just for the sake of being a Lewis fan. I'm a Lewis fan because he's actually an extremely intelligent driver, apart from being a good driver. Now, you see, the strategy Lewis was doing that maybe it wasn't too obvious to a lot of us watching was he was pushing, sorry, that's my, it was pushing and stressing Max Verstappen and easing off. Each time he put him under a lot of pressure, Max Verstappen had the tendency to fall for that bait and react to it, not knowing that he was destroying his rear tires by doing that. So for Lewis, it was a waiting game. Lewis was waiting patiently that the way this guy is doing, I'm going to stress him, I'm going to push him on my hard tires. It's going to respond to that. It's going to defend aggressively like he normally does, not knowing that he was destroying his rear tire. So at the end of it, towards the end of the race, he had no tires left. And if the race had gone on for another maybe 2 or 3 laps, even Bottas would have caught up with him and overtook him. And in fact, he'd probably not be able to get the, it would be like driving on ice. He wouldn't even be able to get the car to the finish line. So I think it fell for the bait. Anybody that would take a medium or even a soft tire 20, 30 laps is Lewis Hamilton, because he knows how to apply his foot on the gas, not to accelerate aggressively or to decelerate aggressively. And you've got to give him credit for that. And he's an intelligent driver. I don't know, maybe you heard the comments that came via the team radio when things were coming to an end. So well done, Lewis. Cool head won that race. He kept cool, he kept calm, he didn't allow himself to become overly emotional. He made evasive actions when he needed to make evasive action by conceding position to Verstappen, knowing, listen, is either I concede or I risk getting myself in an accident. And he conceded with no qualms. And that is the sign of a matured driver that has a game plan, a strategy that ultimately, won him the race. So it was an interesting race. Two red flags, safety cars. I was expecting all of that to happen, but I was not expecting Max to brake test Lewis. I just wasn't expecting him to do that in such an obvious way. What was he thinking? That the telemetry would not give him away? I mean, these are basic physics or F1 driving 101. Your telemetry will give you up that you applied your brakes, and you swerved. He was a lucky guy, very, very lucky. If Lewis had done that, trust me, he'll be carrying penalties into the next race.
That aside, let's talk about a few other things down the field. Clash of the world champions, Kimi and Vettel.
Honestly, I was convinced Kimi had started smoking pot again. Honestly, I said, "What on earth is he doing?" I mean, come on, what was that all about? I didn't understand what he was trying to do. Oh my goodness, but it was entertaining. I think he's trying to give us something to remind of what a brilliant driver he is. That often never loses it until occasionally does.
That brings me to the support from, well, what you would class as teammates. I think the opportunity to be a number 2 support driver was taken from Checo, unfortunately. However, I'm always very critical of Bottas.
He did a splendid job.
Yesterday, Bottas was, I'm not saying he's not been a team player, but yesterday he gave it everything to even the final lap to take 3rd spot of Ocon. I mean, yes, I actually thought, well, yes, he's doing his bit to make sure that Mercedes get their constructors. So well done to him there. The other interesting party, George Russell. What happened with him?
George is just faded up. He's just faded away into the abyss, as far as I'm concerned. In fact, to be honest, I think the performance we have from him earlier on in the season might have been a result of his engine power being toned right up, because he's just and that was done to assist him dethrone Bottas. He's nowhere to be found. He's consistently been outside of the top 10 shootout for as long as I can remember now, unlike our friend in Lando Norris and even Yuki Tsunoda. I mean, look at Yuki nowadays. Yuki, you have to seriously consider Yuki as a contender, from position 5 to maybe 8 in any race now. Amazing for a Japanese driver.
Well, I think you're being unfair to Japanese drivers. He's in a half decent car. The Alpha Touris are not too bad because
he is, but a Japanese driver in a Japanese car, I would say, of course, what do you expect? He's got a Honda engine behind him. Well, does he have a Honda engine, Yuki?
He does. The Alpha Touris are Honda powered.
That explains that, man. So it's making us cry, One for the boys.
Well, you'd only expect, if I'm being fair to him, you'd only expect him to respond to, the performances his teammate has been putting in, because you should remember Pierre Gasly has, he's had a few 4th positions and stuff like that. So yeah, you'd only expect that. But yeah, the Ferrari boys and the McLaren boys, that was a bit of a ding dong battle. I think Ferrari are finally pushing their head ahead of McLaren, because with where Leclerc finished, it's given.
I guess delay. We cannot finish without giving a lot of credit to the Alpine cars. Ocon was very, very close. He drove a terrific drive. The car performed brilliantly well. And compared to Alonso was further down the field. So do we need to actually put Ocon's name in the mix of great F1 drivers now? Because I'm not quite sure the performance on Sunday was just simply amazing. Simply amazing. By contrast to Alonso in the same car.
Well, I wouldn't say by contrast to Alonso. Alonso didn't have a great day. He didn't have a great day. But I guess we have to look at the fact that Ocon has actually won a Formula One race. So
He has.
I guess that
His name
says
doesn't come to mind
that
when
that
you
that
want to.
leans a bit of weight to what you are saying. I think, in fairness, if I'm being honest, most of the F1 drivers, most of them in better equipment would, do the business.
They will, yeah. They will.
But
So
unfortunately, everybody can't have the best equipment. So you make do with what you've got.
indeed.
Well, I guess we're going to have to wrap it up now. I can't wait for Abu Dhabi. The gloves are going to be off.
Gloves are already off.
Oh, would you say that? Hey,
I think listen, if we're getting the top contenders break testing each other, trying to deliberately take each other out, the gloves are off. Trust me, they are.
Wow, that's a bit of hearsay, wouldn't you say?
I tell you, the gloves are off. Did you notice that Verstappen did not take part in the post-race podium champagne party? He just said, "Toss that. Forget. I'm not celebrating with these guys." So the gloves are off. Totally.
Can
off.
can I ruffle your feathers just before we go, OBJ?
Tell me, you do that all the time.
Driver of the day, my man Max. What was your take on that?
I think he deserved to get it if we were to count all the pigeons and rats, the neighborhood rats and foxes that might have voted for him. Yeah, definitely.
And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, we'll call it a day until we see you in a few days' time in Abu Dhabi. From me, take care, keep it locked here on Talk Formula One. OBJ?
Yeah, thank you, guys. We will see you in Abu Dhabi. Take care. God bless.